I hate to quote our own line, but it's like, I never go, but I just want to be, I just want to be invited. It's like with the charts, right? Like, it's like, you don't care about it, but like at the same time, you're like, but what is happening with it? You know what I mean?
All right, this is your Audacy Live check-in. I am here with the guys of Fall Out Boy. Well, some of the guys of Fall Out Boy. And before we get started, I want to show you this video, and hopefully you haven't seen it. It's I think she's an independent artist, and she does like how the clubs butcher songs. So check this out.
Ride it, my pony, my saddle's waiting, coming, jump on it. We'll go down, down, sugar with.
Have you ever seen that? She's a beast. I don't want to say she ruined the song for me because it's amazing, but now I think of her face anytime I hear the song. Yeah, it's crazy. So now totally switching gears. So Much For Stardust. Let's talk about that. I love the title. I love the album cover. Can you kind of just break down how both those came about? Were there other options and stuff?
The title, I think we settled on a long time, like a really long time ago. Or I had an idea for the title of the record a really long time ago, but wasn't sure if we were going to make the right record for the title.
Yeah.
And then the album cover, it kind of like reminds me in a weird way of like being like a sister cover to, or sister idea to From Under the Cork Tree, which is kind of about, well, it's about Ferdinand the Bull and how he just, doesn't want to fight and hangs out in flowers. And I really wanted to do something that was tangible. So like the title is like done in claymation, and then the little dog is an oil painting. So like you can't, but you could go touch it. You know what I mean?
It's very I feel like you could interpret it your own way, but it reminds me of like the album covers I grew up on, like some like weird Alice in Chains or Stone Temple Pilots type thing where you're like, I don't know what this means, but I'm going to make up what it means for myself,
That's actually the perfect answer. That's what I want somebody to do more than anything.
Yeah.
And I'm so into all those 90s records. Like, I just feel like the artwork was like bizarre and we were like pre-digital and whatever. But like, I love when people just come up with their own interpretation. It's honestly so much better than whatever we had. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I was looking at the track list, and what immediately jumps out, you're like, why the heck is Ethan Hawke on this album? So tell me everything.
Over the pandemic, I just like, with my 14-year-old, we just like crushed a bunch of movies that he decided like there's certain movies he has to see, or whatever, or like on a list. And I think we watched Reality Bites, and I like forgot about this speech that Ethan Hawke gives in the middle of it. That's like a total standalone thing, because Reality Bites is like this one thing, it's like about being slackers in the 90s and, or whatever. And then there's this one speech he gives where he's just like, my parents got divorced when I was really little. I never really hung out with my dad. Then, gets cancer. He shows up in my life, and he's like, son, the answers are all in this shell. And he gives him a pink seashell, and he's like, oh, there's nothing. There's no answers to anything.
Yeah.
It's like this ultimate like nihilistic moment where you're like, oh my God, this is so dark, like baked into the middle of this like Ben Stiller, not comedy, but kind of a comedy, or whatever. And so I always thought it could stand on its own. And it's like definitely speaks to part of what the album is, that nihilism, that feeling of dread of where you're like, does any of it even matter? And then we reached out to him and reached out to Ben Stiller, and they said it was cool. And
wow. I think the day you announced the lead single off the album, Joe kind of also said he was going to step back a little bit and take some time to focus on mental health and things like that. First off, how's he doing?
He's in a great spot.
Yeah.
We hung and he worked on this video, and I think he like, every once in a while you get a chance to like reorganize the apartment that is your brain and heart, and it's good to take that time to do it. I think it's awesome to be really open about it, because it just destigmatizes it for other people, because everybody just goes through that stuff. But I think he's in a good spot.
Do we know at this point if he's gonna hit the road with you guys?
I think he will. It's just a matter of like when it'll start.
Yeah.
But I think he will.
I want to talk about Mania for a little bit. I read that it was the first album since your debut that didn't spawn a Hot 100 hit, but it was also like Grammy nominated for rock album. So, I mean, how do you, what's the scale? Do you just not look at nominations, numbers, and charts now, or what does it mean to you?
The 2 previous records we made, or albums we made, at a time where like I feel like pop culture was not like super into bands, so we were just kind of like figuring out how to do it and kind of how to get through it. And I think that you could really hear that Mania was a product of like frustration. I could definitely hear it in Young and Menace and a couple of other songs, like pure frustration. I would say that album is very polarizing. And in that way, I think it's a success because it's really meant to make you feel something, and you're supposed to feel the frustration there. And I think that leads to Stardust, like that's what leads to like we fulfilled that, and we kind of like went kind of as far as we could go in that direction, and we were able to cleanse the palate and do this.
And I love that you say that was kind of necessary to get to this album for sure.
And I hate to quote our own line, but it's like I never go, but I just want to be, I just want to be invited. It's like with the charts, right? Like it's like you don't care about it, but like at the same time you're like, but what is happening with it? You know what I mean? Like I want someone to be banging down my door being like, you're so big on the charts, and I'm like, I don't care about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I could talk to you all day. We have to wrap, but I'm going to throw out 2 questions before we wrap. The first thing, your ties with obviously Panic at the Disco. Did you have a conversation with Brendan before the announcement was made that the split up was happening?
No, we didn't talk about it. I did obviously know that he was going to be a dad, and listen, I think that like he's a super creative person and like will always, I think, make art, like he's like kind of one of the most talented people that I know on that level. But I just think that like as a dad at the current moment, his heart wanted to be at home and not doing that. You know what I mean? And so I just I have a hard time, like I would have a talk with him about it, but I have a hard time like having a conversation where I have an opinion on one of those, like when someone is like, I'm just a dad. And I'm like, I get it. We're all like doing it the way we think is best. So you like,
dude, when it happened, I was like, maybe I'll quit everything. Like for real.
Totally.
I know. I get it. And the last question, if you guys were to pull a Linkin Park and do a collision course, I know you did the rap remix album at one point. Who would be the rapper you collaborated with and why?
I truly think that what would be the most interesting one, and thinking of Patrick, would be Kid Cudi. Probably Kid Cudi, Fall Out Boy, I think would be interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now we need that. Thank you so much, guys. Congratulations on everything.